Hey guys, welcome back to the Blue Podcast. Today I've got Lloyd and Helly, and we've got Jamie Talks today. How you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. Excited.
Yeah, feeling good. Very excited for this one. Looking forward to it.
I'm buzzing to be here. Thanks for having me, lads.
Of course. So do you want to tell our audience what it is that you do? Just because, I mean, the best person to explain is probably yourself.
Of course, yeah. So I'm a show producer. I work in sports media. I've been making content for a few years, and I've been editing and a digital producer for a lot of people across YouTube for the last few years also.
Fair enough. I think always the best way to start is at the beginning. How did you realise, or how did you get into that industry?
I actually stumbled into this industry. Me and my close friend, a guy called Kwaku Afari, he's broadcaster for Sky Sports and ESPN and whatnot. We both went into COVID doing different careers. I was a nutritionist. He was working in sales and whatnot. We both lost our jobs, like a lot of people around up and down the country. And we found ourselves unemployed and thought, let's just start a podcast like most people.
Like me.
And then from there, it's kind of just been a gradual domino effect. He ended up getting a job at TalkSport. I ended up getting a job at another company. And things have just kind of gone from there, really. So it's gone from the ground up. I was never official like you guys and went through university and like an esteemed place like this. It just kind of stumbled into this career, really.
Fair enough.
So
well, I mean,
happy accident.
Happy accident for sure. Yeah, absolutely love what I do now, so I can't complain.
It is. It's basically something that I think all of us are trying to do. Hence why we're at this university.
Yeah.
I mean, I can speak for you as well. I know you definitely want to get into hosting, Helly.
Oh, I love it, man. I'm all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing stuff behind the camera, in front of camera. I'm just very happy to be here right now. I'm just enjoying myself, man.
No, living your best life.
Yeah,
That's it, mate.
Yeah.
As you
That's
should.
it. And I mean, as a producer, like that's one thing I can say that makes you invaluable is being able to take an idea from inception all the way through pre-production, post-production to delivery.
Now the amount of no's I've got, it started doing my head in, but now I've got given the chance. Thank you, Tom. Please don't fire me. Now I've got given the chance to like come up with ideas for content. I'm a happy boy.
Just be undeniable, mate. Just boot every door down that you can.
Oh no, literally, if you go through my LinkedIn, Instagram emails, I've got hundreds, probably nearly
lad.
thousands of just.
Keep it going, mate, because one of them will get back to you.
One of them will get back to you. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got some exciting things coming up in the summer, which we can't talk about, but I'm sure
Oh no,
there's
I think you can now.
Can now?
Yeah, so I'm going to Dortmund for a whole month because I'm working at the Euros. It's not media. It's found basically I did the volunteer thing for UEFA. My first choice was media, like being in the stadiums, helping out the commentators with info. But now I'm doing fan work, like outside the Signal Iduna Park. So that'll be very good.
And speaking of how it happened, how do you get from starting the WTF podcast
Mm-hmm.
to then transitioning into kind of the sports industry to an extent?
Yeah, it was kind of like you guys alluded to. It was kind of a happy accident. I started We Talk Football with my friend. He managed to get a job quite soon after at TalkSport, and I was working as a nutritionist alongside. And basically, where I had to I should say that we both started the podcast quite naively. Like neither of us had any skill set or anything. We didn't know how to edit. We didn't know how to market ourselves or self-promote the podcast in any sort of way. But in doing that, we kind of created a body of work throughout the COVID period where we had to learn how to edit. We had to learn how to self-promote the podcast, market. When I say edit, like make it watchable and whatnot. If you go back and watch, and I'm not saying if you go back and watch the original podcast, they're watchable, because they're really not. But basically, just picked up a bunch of skills, and then the first job I got in media, I would very much say that the company took a chance on me.
Yeah.
And then when I got an opportunity to be inside the building, I was just a sponge, and I took as much information as I could. Was really thankful to work under a guy called James Rocket Long. This guy called Rocket was on like Soccer AM for 23 years. So he was like head producer, and I just learnt a bunch of stuff under him. And he kind of just taught me a bunch of things. And yeah, like when I got in the room, I was just a sponge, surrounding myself with people that were a lot more intelligent in that field than me, and then kind of just picked up as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then it transitioned into other steps in my career for sure.
Is there any opportunities that stand out to you that you've now been given going down the path that you have?
Absolutely, yeah. Dream opportunity for me. So I'm a big West Ham fan. Recently, I did some work with the club directly. So I went down and did some socials presenting for them. So the Newcastle game, actually, when we played Newcastle at home, drew 1-1. I interviewed Thomas Soucek 10 minutes
Yeah,
before the game.
Saw that.
He then went on the pitch and scored 10 minutes later. So you can
He's
imagine
having
as a
good
West Ham
season for you,
fan.
isn't he?
Yeah, it's like again, you know, I'm a Thomas Soucek fan. I'm a stan for that man. But as I said, like interviewing him before he went on the pitch and then scored, it was like, you know, you can't ask for any more
No.
as a football fan interviewing your heroes and things like that. So it's class.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a dream for all of us at some
Oh,
point.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah, 100%. I mean, if I could get anywhere near that to interviewing Liverpool players or just Premier League players in general, like you watch them on the TV every week and you're like, these are professionals. They've worked so hard to get to where they are, and yeah, he's like, yeah, naturally, yeah, idolise them from like growing up being a young
Yeah.
football fan. Like, I remember me and watching Fernando Torres, like just putting goals in like at 5, 6. I don't really remember much of it, but I remember a few goals, and yeah.
It's much more achievable than you think, mate. So like someone's got
Yeah.
to interview those players. There's no reason it can't be you. As
Yeah.
cliche and you know as that
No, I
sounds,
know, yeah.
but you know there's no reason why it can't be you. You know.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like, obviously, interviewing Soucek as a fan? Because, I mean, as someone who's not done it, and a lot of people that we watch this haven't interviewed a professional football player of that is they are a fan of as well. Is it, you know, everyone says, oh, they're just normal people.
Yeah.
But I'm saying inside, do you not have that little butterfly feeling when you're like, I'm about to meet this person who I watch on TV every week or see live at the stadium?
Do you know what? I'm quite lucky. I don't have that kind of those butterfly feelings. I don't sound like such a contrived bell end right now. But I don't really get nervous for those kind of things because the people I admire in society are like people who are like, you know, creating medicines and saving people's lives and whatnot. I absolutely idolise footballers, but at the end of the day, they are like people that can
No, of course.
kick a football. So
Yeah.
when it comes to like interviewing celebrities and all sorts of things like that, in my experience, I've always found it generally okay. There's one occasion in my life where I've been, I was fortunate enough to interview Noel Gallagher. I know this is like a football podcast, but interviewed Noel Gallagher for a show. He came into a room, interviewed, introduced himself as, "Hi, I'm Noel," and everything. So there's like footage of me as a 4-year-old singing Wonderwall on like a karaoke machine. And when he shook my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Noel," I was like, "I know who you are, mate." Do you know what I mean? So that's the only like time where I've ever been interviewing anyone where I've been like,
Proper starstruck.
it's probably starstruck in a way. But
Yeah.
with interviewing Thomas Soucek, I think, you know, we're all football fans here. If there's one thing that we know, it's our football club and the players that play for it. You know, we're all passionate fans. There's a reason you guys are on a football podcast. So if you were asked later today to go and interview a Liverpool player, you probably wouldn't need to do much prep work because you know a lot about it,
true.
you know. So when I was interviewing Thomas Soucek, I knew what to ask him because I'd watched West Ham all season. So I knew he was having a good season. I knew that he was one of our most important midfielders. So it was kind of just like a natural thing of being a fan in that moment, but also having to have a level of professionalism where you're just like, how's the season going and whatnot. But
So it's almost like you've moulded in what you've done before with the podcast and everything that you've been learning all the way up to that point, and then just went, I'm a fan, I know what fans want to hear, and just kind of, so you just mesh the two together. I'm a fan, but I know what I'm doing as well.
that's it, yeah. I think any real fan has a real knowledge of their football club. So when it gets to interviewing a football player, as much as it's like a daunting prospect, you know about the player, you know about your club. So you just have to ask the questions that come naturally, really.
Do you think like when you interview a player, do you think like have you been like not disappointed but like underwhelmed a bit because like media trained? Do you think players should be media trained because like doesn't that take away the personality from them?
I think it depends on what kind of platform you interview them on. So when I did the work with West Ham, it was obviously going out on West Ham channels. So there was only going to be a particular type of messaging that was going out.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, when you find players going on often their own platforms or, you know, platforms elsewhere, I think that's when you might get more of a natural response from them.
A bit like Antonio right now, I guess. He's been kind of everywhere now, isn't he?
Yeah, so like Antonio and has the podcast with BBC Sounds and Callum Wilson, and they're super vocal on that. You can see that they're both kind of posturing for their next steps of their career once they stop playing football, and that's probably going to be in media. You've seen Mikel Antonio obviously as a pundit in the last few weeks on Sky Sports and whatnot. So I think you're right. I think there is a degree of media training, but I think with the age of social media and how important it is now in terms of having a platform, players are starting to become more vocal and whatnot. So I think on their own platforms they'll be more open, I think.
But have you ever been underwhelmed or like disappointed going into it at all? You don't mention names, obviously you don't, but just in general.
With footballers, no, not really. Everyone I've kind of met and interacted with on within the football world have normally been quite down to earth and quite sound people. I can't complain. I haven't got anything juicy to tell you on that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, I just remember like just certain players. I think it was this season, Cole Palmer and Noni Madueke after the Luton game.
Oh, yeah.
Just what was it? Just
Didn't
express
care.
their own thoughts and opinions. Like Wilfried Zaha when he was at Crystal Palace.
Yes.
Yeah.
He'd always give his own thoughts and opinions no matter what. Like maybe they tried to media train him and he probably just weren't having any of it. Like I would like to see that a little bit more in football, I think.
I mean, that's actually just reminded me of a recent game for Galatasaray. Zaha got subbed off, and I'm pretty sure he shoved the manager.
Really?
It was
Did he
3.
actually?
I
Wow.
think
I
so.
I haven't
was
seen
watching
that.
The game.
I haven't seen that.
I couldn't tell if it was a coach, manager, or because I don't know Galatasaray very well. But yeah, he's been a fiery one for a long time. Do you think that was the right move for him, Zaha,
Well, Zaha,
to go to Galatasaray at that time, or should he have stayed maybe in Europe?
I think he's a player that was clearly destined for bigger things for a long time. I think he stayed at Crystal Palace probably a little bit too long. Obviously, I know he went to Man United. It didn't quite work out, but there was so many moves that over the years that he could have, entertained, and the reason as to why it never happened, who knows? He's clearly a Champions League quality player.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily begrudge him making the move. No, not at all. I think making the move to Turkey at his age, I think he could have made the move somewhere in the Premier League. It's just whether those clubs wanted him at this point.
I think it's also like a lot of clubs now do their due diligence into like, are they a bit of a nightmare in the changing room? Will they change the dynamic of things? And I have a feeling if he went to another Premier League club, he would want to keep on being the big fish in the smaller pond. To an extent, do you not think that's and I think that's why he didn't really work out at United, because he was definitely not the big fish.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to talk about the player's character. I mean, he's clearly a very outspoken person. I mean, even at Galatasaray, he said when asked about a result, he was like, "I really don't care," and things like that. So he said that in an interview and whatnot. So I'll never begrudge a player for speaking their mind, because I think that's what those kind of players make them the most relatable to people like us, But if he's a kind of a problem in the dressing room, I don't know why he would have been such of a positive player for Crystal Palace over the years. And who knows, I remember going back a few years ago, like talking about Arsenal, for example. It was between him and Pepe, and Arsenal signed Pepe. Like, if they would have signed Zaha, would he have been a better move? It's hard to think that he wouldn't have been a better move than Pepe, for example.
Probably cheaper as well.
Yeah, he went for like 70, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money
sure.
well spent in my.
What's your association with Mola Sports?
Yeah, so
That's what I was asking you.
that was the first company I worked with in media. So yeah, Mola were a great company. So if anyone doesn't know who Mola are, they don't really have much of a footprint in the UK, but they're in like an Indonesian like sports provider.
One of our co-hosts is half Indonesian, lived in Singapore his whole life. So
Nice.
and he's big into fighting. So he might have actually seen it before. Is what I was asking.
So they're like the home of fighting across Asia, in Indonesia, of course, and then around the world. They're owned by their parent company is a company called Jarum, and they're also the company that owns Como 1907 in Italy, like the Cesc Fabregas, Thierry Henry club. So they're creating lots of like little footprints around the world in terms of like to build up a footprint. And when I got involved with the company, this no longer exists, unfortunately, but they were creating in-house productions in the UK. So they had a show called Garuda Select, which was a academy show headed up by Des Walker and Dennis Wise. It was like an international youth academy where they would get 15, 16-year-olds from around the world, some of them from Indonesia, Italy, parts of Africa and whatnot. And they would get them together and they'd go around the UK and play academies. So I was involved in the filming of that show and the production of that show. And I was also involved in another show called Pub Talk, which unfortunately you won't find anywhere now. But that was hosted by Alan Brazil and Ray Parler. And they would interview some of the biggest stars in the world, people like Paddy Pimblett, Tyson Fury, Noel Gallagher, for example.
Oh, wow.
And they would come in, and I was involved in the production on that show.
So you'd actually be in studio for the interviews and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I was in studio for the interviews. I'd help write the interviews in the production team, help research. Primarily, it was my first role in media, so I was helping research and given that to the producers to then kind of put into the shows and whatnot. And then my role alongside that, because I was, I can't forget my job title. It was social media. I was like a social media coordinator or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would get, after the show would wrap, I would then go get things like quickfire questions and would you rather questions with the guests. So I'd then go interview them. I wasn't on camera because it would just be a single shot thing, but I'd be asking them behind the camera, and that was kind of what gave me the bug for doing things in front of the camera and the art of interviewing and whatnot. But yeah, I left Mola about a year and a half ago, but it was probably the one of the most like positive experiences of my career for sure.
Wow.
Were you into fighting or MMA before that, or did it kind of
Yeah.
something you had to learn on the spot almost?
Yeah, I mean, I'm into lots of sports. Obviously, I love football the most, but I grew up playing basketball to a relatively high level, and I've always been like a big fan of like combat sports in general. So when an opportunity to kind of get involved in the company came up, it was a no-brainer. One thing I forgot is quite often some of the biggest fights in boxing, for example, would be held in the UK. So for Motorsport on the occasion, I would then go cover the fights from a social perspective and like on the Motorsport Instagram page. So for example, I went to multiple Tyson Fury fights. I went to one at the White Hart Lane, for example, when he fought who was it? Derek Chisora. He fought Derek Chisora. It was a shocking fight, but I went there and
the one recently where it shouldn't have really been a fight and Fury just absolutely made him look silly, or was it?
Yeah. It was a fight that no one really wanted.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much public opinion for it. The place was still sold out regardless, but went there, just had to cover it from a social perspective on stories and whatnot. So yeah, as a boxing fan, it was a dream.
What do you think about the cut on Fury now for the Usyk fight?
Ducking. Is he ducking
I don't think he's ducking because it's a heck of a gash, but like it's very. I think for a lot of people, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's just a wider frustration that people have with boxing. I think with the emergence of the UFC over the past couple of decades, really, UFC really finds itself at the precipice now of like kind of combat sports, and I feel like a lot of boxing fans have transitioned into being UFC fans now because you see the best guys fight each other. And the age-old problem with boxing is because there's so many divisions across the world and so many people trying to ring fence their best fights and make the most money out of their fights, you quite often see fights that are made a little bit too late. We saw it with Pacquiao and Mayweather. That was a fight that everyone wanted, but it was both after their primes and whatnot. And I think that's the issue in boxing. I think too often you see the best guys not fighting each other on a regular basis, whereas in UFC, people will fight each other 3 times. I know you're going to throw like Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fighting 3 times in front of me, but I don't think Tyson Fury. I don't think Tyson Fury would ever duck a fight. Personally, I think he's a fighting man.
Yeah.
He really is.
I think he might be done now though.
Who'd you have winning?
That fight.
Yeah.
Usyk's very small compared to Tyson Fury.
It would be the fastest fighter he's fought now.
Maybe
in terms of hand speed, in comparison to what Chisora, White, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think, you'd be faster hands.
I mean, you're probably right. Let's be honest, but I think a lot of people have doubted Tyson Fury before.
Yeah.
And obviously he came in and he looked off it when he beat Ngannou.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said that he shouldn't have won that fight, but
yeah.
Either way, a lot of people have doubted Tyson Fury before, myself included, and he's come back and shocked a lot of people. So I'd find it very hard to make the same mistake again.
Yeah. No, I mean, I saw somebody said something in my lecture. It was like a comparison between boxing and UFC. It's like as soon as the main event gets cancelled, all the undercards, they all have to delay their fighting.
Yeah.
Whilst in UFC, if the main one gets delayed, that doesn't matter. They'll just put on. They'll have like another like.
Someone will be drafted
fight.
in last minute.
Someone will be drafted in.
Yeah.
So that all the people who've been working for months to get ready for the fight will be able to do the competition. Whilst in boxing, everyone's got to stop and wait a couple months for the main event to be ready again.
Arguably, the UFC's the UFC's biggest British fighter ever, Michael Bisping, he was a benefiter of that.
He's actually one of my school friends' uncles.
Really? Yeah.
Right.
Like I've never met Michael Bisping, but I'd love to interview him. It's like one of my dream interviews. I think he's an absolute legend. But he was a benefiter of that. Got drafted in it a lot last minute for one of his fights. So as I said, I just think the UFC model is very much leaving boxing behind, and this isn't me saying the UFC is a perfect kind of product, but I think where everything is centralized, and obviously Dana White has a really a monopoly
He's
on
got a massive monopoly, yeah.
on MMA. I think you see the biggest fights. Obviously, then that's about getting into like what they're paid and whatnot.
Yeah, we
and
probably don't need to get into
Yeah.
the paid but
but yeah, I think because of that, you see the biggest fights, and as combat sports fans, that's what fans want to see.
fair enough. I didn't realise we'd be going into a full.
No, I know,
full
right?
fight.
Yeah, no, it's good
AJ
though.
and Ngannou, what are you thinking for that?
Again, like I'm quite intrigued by it. Like, if I'm honest, the biggest travesty of it all is that Ngannou isn't fighting in MMA because that guy is intimidating. Like, if anyone doesn't know anything about that guy's story, there's plenty of podcasts out there where he's gone and spoken about it. I'd really encourage you to go and listen to that because he's an inspiring guy. That fight there, like I'd love to see it. Yeah, of course,
And
I'd love to.
Also, do you think like when you talk about like the fights like always like not happening stuff like that, like Fury AJ, that's like the big fight everyone's
course.
always wants.
Yeah.
Like do you? I don't think like the hype will ever die down for it. But do you reckon like now it's past like the prime time where it should have been? Do you think like it's just not the it fight anymore?
I think it'll probably happen, but again, I think it'll just probably happen too late.
Yeah.
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 And as to the reasons as to why that is, it will come down to money that's made and whatnot, and promoters. I don't know enough about the details, but the fight will probably happen. It'll probably happen a little bit too late than what everyone else wants.
Is there a fight that's not currently in the works right now that you wish you could see?
That's the one.
That's just the one.
That's the one. Yeah, AJ Fury. I think that's the one that fans have been screaming for years. There's a lot of AJ fans. I think he's responsible over the last 10 years or so for bringing a lot of eyes to boxing because he was the poster boy. He was the guy that looked like a physical specimen. And then, of course, on the other side of that, you got Tyson Fury, who's also brought eyes to the sports for his larger-than-life character and then, quite frankly, more often than not, unmatched boxing ability. So I think those two are just megastars in their own right. And I think as boxing fans, who wouldn't want to see them fight each other, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's been years now, hasn't it? It's been years people have wanted that fight, but there always seems to be a spanner thrown in the works,
Yeah.
like AJ losing or Fury retiring, and then
Yeah.
I'm never gonna see it.
Yeah.
They'd be so disappointed. wouldn't it? But, like, I remember like 4 or 5 years ago, the people wanted it, and it still ain't came about. So it needs to happen,
Yeah.
definitely.
Let's move back to you.
Yeah.
Is there anything coming up this year, or do you have any goals for this year coming up personally?
Yeah, so I'd say personal goals for me for this year. Over the last couple of years, I've really focused on content for other people. So I've worked as like a digital editor across YouTube for a host of creators and networks and whatnot. And I think this year I'm doubling down on my own content, trying to pick up the skills and whatnot to kind of, just make things that I'm passionate about. Quite fortunate to have some things in the pipeline that I'm really excited about that I can't really talk about publicly yet.
Yep.
But keep an eye on the socials.
Do you want to put out your handles?
Yeah, I can do. So I'm just Jamie Talks on everything and whatnot. I've recently started a YouTube channel as well. The perilous journey of starting a YouTube channel from the ground up is hard work. But on there, I'm looking to do longer form videos with interviews with players that I really idolise or grew up idolising. So I the first one that I put out recently was a guy with a guy called Nigel Reo-Coker, who was like a
Street Fighter, yeah.
yeah. So he was an ex-West Ham captain. Went to Aston Villa, then to the MLS, and now lives full time out in the in America and works as a broadcaster. So I spoke to him about his West Ham career and probably one of the most famous moments in his career when he jumped in front of the Steven Gerrard FA Cup final volley that went in, and they ended up beating us in the final, as I'm sure you know. So yeah, just doubling down on my own content this year, interviewing players and going from there really.
Fair enough. Have you guys got any more questions, or should we start talking football?
Okay, to be fair, with your own stuff that's going on, is there like a creator or like a brand or company that you've enjoyed, like who's like someone you wouldn't expect to be like a really nice, down to earth guy that like exceeded your expectations?
Ooh, Rory Jennings actually.
Really?
Yeah, Rory Jennings. I feel like plays the pantomime villain with a lot of people.
Because I sometimes have to think that he is making some of the things as a Chelsea fan up.
He has to be sure.
I will tell you this now. Rory Jennings, obviously, when it comes to football takes, he pushes a lot of people's buttons, but he's one of the biggest gentlemen you'll ever meet in your life. He's an absolute hero. Like he jumped on the We Talk Football podcast when we had like 50 subscribers, and did us a solid just to help us out.
How did you get him on at 50?
My co-host started working at TalkSport,
Oh,
and through association managed to have a few conversations and got him in through that.
Right.
And that's that really. So yeah, Rory in the YouTube world, Rory Jennings is an absolute legend. Really, really nice guy. I'd always have time for him, even though he's got rascal takes about Haaland and whatnot. And in the celebrity world, like this is a bit of a shocking one, and I find myself disagreeing with him quite a lot. But Piers Morgan as well, actually. Piers Morgan, a lot of people dislike Piers Morgan, and I don't necessarily like him at all for his views that he voices, but one of the most charming men I've ever met in my life, and he's someone that's clearly playing a character when it comes to TV to antagonise the general public.
Yeah.
Again, I disagree with a lot of those views, but just wanted to put it out there that he was actually a really nice guy.
I think some people kind of they enjoy playing the villain, don't they? They will play up a bit to the camera because they know they'll get the reaction, and I mean everyone talks about them.
It's so fun riling people up. It's so fun,
but there's ways to rile people up, and I think
Chelsea and just
there's ways to rile people up, and I think some of the things that he says, quite frankly, are unacceptable. I'll be honest with you. I want to put that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was an absolute gent.
I was going more the Rory route with that than the
yeah, we'll cut the Piers Morgan bit.
The Piers Morgan bit's not great. But I mean, we watched the Liverpool Chelsea game together, and let's just say I was put in a grump by everyone else by the end.
I just said stuff that I knew were completely untrue just to get a reaction.
Are you one of those guys?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Trying to backtrack.
No, I am, but I do it in a friendly way. Like
That was good night.
I make sure they know I'm joking and taking this.
You now do agree that it was definitely two penalties, and we'll get that into that in the purple show.
Nah, never mind.
That's ridiculous. Come on, mate.
Come on.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it was a penalty. Yeah, of course it was.
So would there be like just if you could pick one person to interview, anyone? There could be whether like musician, actor, Ronaldo or Messi, but like Yeah,
I'd say my dream person. I have to be, I have to be true to my roots. It'd be Mark Noble for sure.
Oh,
I'd love.
Yeah.
I think any West Ham fan has to idolise Mark Noble. One point in my life, I would have. I don't know who that is. To be honest with you. Forgotten about Declan.
Break your heart.
He didn't break my heart, mate. We got a very good transfer offer for him, mate, and we've redistributed that very, very well.
Yeah,
my friend. So, Mark Noble, I'd say. I think he's a West Ham legend. I read his book recently as well, and even as a non-West Ham fan, I'd recommend you guys read that because I think it's a real, true insight to what a footballer's career is like. And I think he's, looking at it from a objective point of view, I think there's very, very few one-club men in football nowadays, and he's one guy that spent his entire career there, went through multiple relegations, multiple managers, trials and tribulations. And I think it'd be a super West Ham heavy interview. But I would, he's got to be up there for me.
No, definitely. I mean, he seems like such a down to earth guy as well in all the interviews and stuff that he does outside of football and everything. He seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, proper East End, Canning Town boy. Like you can tell, like he was born to play football, and he's one of those players that West Ham seem to have a lot of those sort of the earth type characters where they are quite relatable. They're kind of they're characters outside of football, and he's just one of those players that I feel like you gravitate towards for the way he kind of plays on the pitch, wears his heart on the sleeve, and then also talks in interviews. So yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he has a doctorate. I listened to his podcast on High Performance
Really?
a long time ago. This might have been 2 years ago now.
Okay.
It's like you've just brought back a memory.
Has he really? I actually don't know that.
I know he did something in America where it's like an honorary.
Yes, he did actually. He
honorary
did.
thing, and I can't remember where, but he has something. I can't remember
He
what
did,
it was.
but I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
No,
But
me
he
neither.
did do that because again,
Definitely
I listened to his book like in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
But in the book, he does say that.
Yeah.
Just can't remember where.
Well, I mean, if you enjoyed his book, I'm sure you'd enjoy the High Performance.
Yeah,
podcast.
I'll check that out.
That's a very good one. It's I mean, the Frank Lampard one there is very good as well.
Mhm.
But I'm sure as a West Ham fan, you don't particularly like him.
I don't mind Frank Lampard. I should say
Really?
that. I really don't.
Because the fans would say otherwise.
I think I'll be honest with you. I think
I mean, for his career, he could not have won.
I actually feel for Frank Lampard a little bit in terms of how he was treated by the West Ham fans on occasion.
Pretty poor.
Yeah, like the part. I mean, there's one thing. Like, I think there's generations of West Ham fans. I really do. and I think like when his mother passed,
Oh yeah.
and like West Ham fans were kind of chanting about his mother, that's kind of unacceptable for me.
Yeah.
I think there's lines in football, and I think that's a line that you shouldn't cross. So,
Yeah.
as a West Ham fan, I don't necessarily begrudge Frank Lampard for leaving, and I actually feel for him when West Ham fans did that for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't from what I heard from my dad, and also I guess in the near the later end of his career, they'd kind of tamed it down a lot from when I went to games, but yeah, it wasn't the nicest. And I mean, I know, I think for him, he probably did want to stay at West Ham if that Chelsea option hadn't come.
Yeah,
I mean, his family's been West Ham, his dad's West Ham. I know his.
His dad was a legend at the club. Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure the actual family supported West Ham as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure on that, but
I mean,
yeah.
I think for his career, I mean, his uncle did say he was going to be one of the best midfielders in the world, and
yeah,
look
it
how
was
he
him and
turned
Scott
out.
Canham.
Yeah.
Fans are asking Harry Redknapp why Scott Canham wasn't playing, and Harry Redknapp said this boy's going to go right to the top.
Yeah.
And he was right, to be fair to him.
Well,
It's just unfortunate it wasn't at West Ham.
well, they did accuse Redknapp of favouritism. That's why he had to like defend Lampard.
Yeah.
And he was about 18, 19 at that time. Really young.
Yeah, super young. There's a bunch of interesting documentaries about that actually that have been made about Scott Canham as well,
Oh,
the
really?
player that wasn't being played, and then talking about his career and following him around. I think he works as a taxi driver now actually.
Oh wow.
But
That's
yeah,
a bit of a fall from grace.
yeah. Well, I think he played a lot in lower leagues of football. I think he went non-league at some point as well. But obviously, you can't argue now in
Yes.
2024 with Harry Redknapp and the reason he made that decision.
Yeah. No, absolutely. How's your season been for West Ham this season, in your opinion?
It's very hard to sit here and complain.
Yeah.
I think obviously there's been a few results that are quite frankly unacceptable. Like I think the cup loss away to
Yeah.
Liverpool, that was a really disheartening one for, as a West Ham fan, because I feel like it was a real opportunity to challenge for some sort of silverware this season. And it felt like we kind of didn't. We went out with a whimper really. Obviously, even the recent loss to Man United, the 3-0 away win.
Oof, yeah.
Again, like we lost 3-0, and as ridiculous as it sounds, we didn't actually play too bad that season. But that game. Other than that, this season, I feel like we've been kind of performing above expectations. You know, over the Christmas calendar, we had a really positive
think you were
period. We were
third best in the league at that point?
we were top of the league in terms of the form table.
Oh wow.
And then went into the end of the year at sixth,
Yeah.
which as a West Ham fans obviously exceeds expectations.
Yeah.
Find ourselves seventh now, going into a big game against Arsenal. I don't want to date this episode,
That's fine.
but yeah, going into a big game against Arsenal, find ourselves seventh at this point. Finding yourself seventh in the league as a West Ham fan in February is pretty okay. We're still in the Europa League as well, so yeah, I think if you go back 6 months or so, there was a lot of worry surrounding West Ham fans. I think whenever you are a football club that loses your best player, and not only your best player, like a generational player, like the best player you've seen at your club for quite some time, I think whenever you have that and you lose him, you worry about how you're going to kind of bounce back the next season. But I think, you know, props to Tim Stighton, David Moyes and David Sullivan. It was shaky at points, but they've kind of hit the nail on the head with all transfers. And I think everyone that we brought in has kind of fulfilled a role and exceeded expectations. You know, you look at Mohamed Kudus, looks like one of the most exciting talents in the year.
I wish we'd
Yeah.
got
How
him.
Ten
Yeah.
Hag chose Anthony over him.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the interesting one, and we got him for 40-odd million. So I mean, he's
So
one of the
cheap.
most exciting talents so far this year. I mean, James Ward-Prowse has been. That is the biggest no-brainer signing. It just fits West Ham perfectly.
Do you think Calvin Phillips will come good?
I do. I'll get onto him.
mean-
Edson Alvarez.
Oh yes, very good player.
He's been class for us. Mavropanos has come on and performed in big moments. We've had to rotate centre backs for injury a lot this year. Obviously, scored a big goal away at Arsenal.
Against his old.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously, lastly, I mean, recently we've had Calvin Phillips come in as well, who obviously had a shaky start.
Wasn't the best start.
But I think football fans are incredibly fickle. I really do think that. I think you go back a couple of years ago, and Calvin Phillips was one of the best midfielders in the league. There's a reason he got that Man City move, and I don't think it's too much of a. I don't think you can hold too much against a player that can't get a game for Man City when they've gone on and won the treble and whatnot, because you've got Rodri in front of him.
Yeah.
Am I telling you he's as good as Rodri? Probably not. Am I telling you he's as good as Gundogan? Probably not. I know he's left the club now, but I don't hold it against Calvin Phillips that he can't get a game at Man City because clearly he's just not good enough. But I do think he's a very good player. You know, you look at his statistics from the 21-22 season, and you know his ball recovery and turning over possession was up there with the top of the league. You know, when you've got Pep Guardiola coming out saying like his passing range is one of the best at the club, it's better than Rodri. He's got that quarterback kind of style passing. So I do think once he gets some match fitness, he hasn't played any football for 18 months.
He's not played for a long time.
So once he gets back to kind of match fitness, I think he can be a real asset for a West Ham side. And I now think we've got 4 quality options in the midfield. It's just about what team David Moyes picks. Because so far he's tried to kind of like pigeonhole them all into a starting lineup, and I don't know if that works as much. But you know, if you get Calvin Phillips in a midfield alongside James Ward-Prowse and Edson Alvarez, I think that's a very good midfield in my opinion.
Well, Calvin Phillips, in my opinion, he's a player that deserves to be in the big 6. In my opinion, like, I think he's like one of the upper end midfielders in the league.
Absolutely,
in my
mate.
opinion. So I feel like the way he's been treated, the way he's been disrespected at Man City has been horrible. Because like, do you actually expect him to compete with Rodri? Let's be honest now. So
do you know what, mate? I don't see it as disrespect. I really don't. I think like Pep Guardiola's gone and won a treble, and it's his job as a football manager to pick the best squad possible. The best he wants to put the best 11 players for whatever game he's playing on the pitch, and for whatever reason.
I mean, disrespect my fans. Like just
disrespect. By fans. Yeah. Again, like football fans are incredibly fickle. I think people forget how much of a good player Calvin Phillips is. I don't want to be that guy, but you know, let's go back to the Euros. He was our best player in that tournament. You know, he is a very good footballer, and let's be honest. If he has an okay 6 months at West Ham and doesn't choose to sign for us, you could see him going to another top 6 club.
Before Rice signed for us, I'd happily taken him.
Yeah, I think I could see him going to any of the top 6. A United,
It's
a
not
Liverpool.
United.
A Liverpool could do with someone like Calvin Phillips. Like I genuinely like, and this is you know the key point here is a Calvin Phillips that is match fit and playing good football. I think he could do a job for any side in the league. I really do. Other than City.
Huh? And he has a point to prove as well now.
Yes, point to prove. Wants to make the Euro squad and whatnot. You know, I think that's a great signing.
So you think he goes on the plane?
Really depends of what direction Gareth Southgate takes. It's whether he chooses to persist with Jordan Henderson now that he's gone to the Eredivisie. But there's you look across the league and there's a host of players staking a claim right now in forward and midfield positions. People like Conor Gallagher are having great seasons. He's probably your best player this season. People like Anthony Gordon probably aren't even in with a shout. Of obviously been with the under 21s, but he's having an incredible season. I think this year, like, you know, even James Ward-Prowse, for an example, James Ward-Prowse is having a stellar season.
He has to go.
He probably won't though. But
probably.
Either way, like if we're talking about Calvin Phillips is probably someone that's going to argue, you know, rival to start. And I think because of his track record and his CV with England, I can see him making the plane for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah. No, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was pulling my hair out when I saw Alvarez go to West Ham because we desperately needed a defensive midfielder. I looked at him and I thought he could be a really good player for us. And then we had Caicedo and Lavia, and then we messed both of those up. And then we got Endo in last minute, who's been very solid. But
he has been very solid for you.
Yeah, no, he's been good. He's been decent. I mean, but do need another option there, definitely.
The biggest compliment I can give Edson Alvarez is that we haven't missed Declan Rice in that role.
Yeah.
And that's largely down to him, for sure.
Where do you think West Ham will finish this season and with any trophies?
That's a tough question. I think we're 7th at the moment. I wouldn't have put us at 7th if you asked me at the start of the season. So we've already exceeded my expectations. I think what worries me is, as a fan is in January we let 3 squad players go and we only really brought in 1. We let Thilo Kehrer go, Pablo Fornals and Said Benrahma, who weren't starting, but they were there as backup to the starting 11. And we only really brought in Calvin Phillips, so I feel like we're definitely thin in certain areas of the squad. So I do worry about squad depth for the rest of the season, and that's kind of consistent with most seasons as a West Ham fan. So I think top 10 is definitely doable for us. Whether we finish as high as 7th, that's another question entirely. Obviously, we've got the Europa League to contend with, and there's still a host of really strong teams in that. Obviously, Liverpool are going to be on a war path by Leverkusen in that tournament, who look incredible this year. Yeah. Obviously, big win in the cup last night. But yeah, I'd say top 10 finish 100%, and then I'll say semis of the
So
Europa League. Yeah.
So European football next season, Conference League 7th.
I wouldn't say no to being in that tournament. Again, I know a lot of fans laugh at that tournament, but that is I was fortunate enough to be in Prague.
How was it? How was it winning that trophy?
Incredible, mate. Incredible. I'm in the glory years as a West Ham fan. The first 20 odd years of my life, I spent miserable because it was kind of flirting with relegation or being relegated. The high point of my life was losing an FA Cup final to Liverpool in terms of football fandom. It's the first thing I'd seen my club win in my lifetime, and it was surreal, if I'm honest with you. As I said, I was fortunate enough to be out there with TNT, so I was fortunate enough to be at the game. Pinch me moment for sure, and just genuinely incredible. Genuinely incredible. I'm lost for words on it. Honestly.
Before the podcast, as much as I made jokes about being like the Carabao Cup of the European competitions, I think adding the Conference League is a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Because don't go wrong. Like, as much as I poke fun at it, I still think it's a great competition, and I do think you deserve plaudits for winning that, obviously. So, but I just feel like no, it's not.
Is that because you want to win a European
There's
trophy?
always a
as
but.
well?
There's always a but, isn't there? There's always a but.
I didn't mean but. I meant and. But anyway, so I just think like what a moment that is for like. Not for smaller clubs, but like the clubs that you don't really expect to be in that Champions League, Europa League conversation.
Look at Villa this year. Villa have got a genuine opportunity to go and win that tournament this year, and I know they've won big European Cups before in the past. They're a huge club in their own right, and they're obviously doing very well in the Premier League. But I won't hear anything against it if Villa go and win that tournament. That is an incredible achievement for them, and it's an incredible feat for the club, and it's also a day out for the fans, which I think a lot of people forget about recently. In modern day football, a lot of people forget about like the fans, and everyone's always obsessed with this top 4 flight, or this top 4 fights, or not getting relegated, or just finishing middle of the road. That gave us a day out in Prague, an away day, and like some of the best days of my football like kind of fandom have been spent on a Thursday night watching my club play European football. And I don't care that it's not Champions League football. My West Ham are never going to play Champions League football. You know what I mean?
Well, so this is the peak for you, do you think?
That's a different question. Like, do I think that West Ham can bridge the gap? Financially, probably not currently, but I do think that we have Champions League quality players in our team for sure.
No,
I think
without doubt.
there's multiple players in our team that could get into any team in the league. I really think that.
Fair enough. And on that note, thank you very much, Jamie.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out Jamie on all of his social. Check out his new YouTube channel. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of fun things coming up. And I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you guys next week for another Blue podcast. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.